Hey everybody, Matt Derrick with Chiefs Digest here. I've been getting a lot of questions about flex scheduling for the Chiefs here at the end of the season. And the big one really centers on week 15, when right now the Chiefs are set to visit the New England Patriots, who are right now 2-9. So this game doesn't have much playoff implications, and it's not necessarily going to be a competitive game. Patriots are playing some pretty ugly football right now. But will the NFL flex schedule that game? Uh, Mike North, who is the vice president of broadcast planning for the NFL, did an interview recently where he really downplayed the notion that the NFL might flex schedule this game. And there's a couple of reasons for it. One is that Chiefs and Patriots still going to be a competitive game from a storytelling standpoint. Andy Reid, Bill Belichick are still big names. The Chiefs are the number 2 ratings draw in the NFL behind the Dallas Cowboys. So anytime you get Chiefs in prime time, it's a big deal. And Mike specifically pointed out the fact that the ESPN only has 2 Chiefs games this year. Giving up the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and right now Travis Kelce would be something to give up for ESPN. If they're going to give that up, they want a big draw in return. Now, the other thing is, what game do you move into that window? And one thing that Mike really punctuated that a lot of us sometimes forget is that flex scheduling is not and has never been intended to get the best game into a prime time slot. Instead, it's designed to simply get games that aren't living up to their expectations, bad games essentially, out of prime time spots. Now, the Chiefs Patriots might seem like a bad game that maybe you do want to get out. The question is, do you have a significantly better game to put in there? And that's where looking at really the week 15 schedule gets dicey and complicated, because one thing the NFL has this week, other than any other week in the season, is that they've got a triple header on Saturday. And when they built the schedule, they set 5 games for those 3 slots. The idea was that 3 of them will go on Saturday, 2 of them will then move to Sunday. The real problem here, and some of it, is that of those 5 games, only 3 of them really probably have significant playoff implications and are good games. I think you can safely bet that the Falcons and Panthers are going to end up on Sunday. That's not a game that I think you need for a national televised audience on a Saturday. And those Saturday games, by the way, will be on NFL Network. So the network giving up the game will be the NFL itself. They would have to give up one of these games to Monday Night Football. Now, here's the other catch. One of the actual rules of flex scheduling is that a game does not move and switch spots with like a Saturday game. If you take Monday's game off Monday Night Football, Chiefs and Patriots would move to Sunday. And if they did that, it would most likely be a noon kick. So any of these games that would be moving wouldn't mean that the Chiefs would move from ESPN to NFL Network, and it would just be a simple trade. Instead, that Chiefs Patriots game would probably end up on CBS. And one of these games, depending on who loses it, I mean, it could end up on Fox. It just depends on how the trade needs to go down, on where the Chiefs and Chiefs and Patriots might play. But you look at these Saturday games and say, okay, Colts and Steelers is the best game. You're probably going to give that in your best window, which would probably be Saturday night. Vikings and Bengals, it's at least 500 teams, but that's really the best of the matchups, other than Broncos and Lions, which I think will absolutely be on Saturday. Lions and the Texans are really 2 of the current up-and-coming darlings that the NFL is trying to find to get into some more windows and primetime games and national games. So I think you can pretty much bet Steelers and Colts, Broncos and Lions will be on Saturday. There's no reason to move them to Monday night because they're already nationally televised games. And like I said, unless the NFL Network wants to give up one of these games simply to put it in a better window and move it off their own air, these games are probably staying on Saturday. Now, take your pick. I mean, Vikings and Bengals, record-wise right now, probably looks like the better game, even though Joe Burrow absence is a big deal. It's either that or Bears and Browns. And I could see the NFL wanting to give the Browns a window because they haven't had a lot of national games and primetime games. So maybe they want to go ahead and leave them on that Saturday. So then you go to Sunday. And now what games would you move? The first thing that I look at is always going to be those 3:25 Central Time games, which this week is a Fox dual game. It's either going to be Cowboys and Bills or Eagles Seahawks. They've got the national window doubleheader. So those two games will be going out, and Fox owns that. So do they want to give up either one of those games to get back Chiefs and Patriots? I mean, conceivably, you are talking about trading one of these games for Patrick Mahomes, but you're also talking about Cowboys and a New York State team in Buffalo, and you're also talking about Eagles Seahawks, which, I mean, you're talking about the two best teams possibly in the NFC. And the Cowboys aren't moving anywhere. For a 325 game, I can't see Fox giving that game up. Probably not the Eagles game either, even though they're getting the Chiefs in return. And remember, 325 is actually the highest viewed NFL game window of the week. Almost 30 million people watch that window every single week. And that's more than either Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football. So the NFL wants big games at 325 on Sunday. So if they've got two big ones there, they're not moving them to put Chiefs and Patriots there or any other game. So that window is probably not changing. So let's go and look at everything else. Now, 305, there's a couple of games. But once again, you get into that, hey, this is a big window here. But 49ers, Cardinals, not moving. Commanders, Rams, not moving. I mean, those aren't any significantly better games than what you're talking about with Chiefs and Patriots. So you look at the Sunday noon games and you're left with, not a lot of choices. You've got a under 500 team in every single one of those noon games. So you don't have a lot of choices. I do know that the NFL wants to get the Houston Texans into some primetime windows and national games. So that might be one game they would circle and saying, let's upgrade that. But it's the 4-7 Titans. So is that a big game to move? Probably not. Now, the Jets and Dolphins, maybe that's an interesting story with, Aaron Rodgers may or may not be back at that game. They do have until December 6th to make the call on this because it's 12 days out from that Monday game. So December 18th, 12 days out, circle it. By December 6th, they have to make the call. Now, if the NFL is going to move one of those Saturday games, they will probably do it sooner than later. So that's why maybe be on the alert that if the NFL does decide to flex this game, that they may make the decision sooner rather than later. But the choices are pretty slim. And that's why Mike North said that he thinks it's pretty remote and unlikely that the NFL will end up flex scheduling that game. And to me, I mean, I think a big part of it is that the most attractive games that they could put and upgrade to the Monday night window would be one of those Saturday games that is on NFL Network. And I don't see the NFL wanting to give up a game that's really valuable to them. So it's difficult to see. Now, Mike made a good point that I've been wondering about, which is that it is actually week 17 where the Chiefs might have a time flex change. And it's not a significant one, but it might be if you're planning to go to the game. And that is week 17 rather, December 31st, New Year's Eve, Bengals and Chiefs. This was originally scheduled as the main CBS game of the week in that 325 slot, which means the biggest audience. And this was obviously thought of at the time, AFC Championship game rematch, Mahomes, Burrow. This was a big deal. Now it's no longer as attractive as a game. So this is much more likely to get flexed. And now what the NFL can do is move a late afternoon game to noon on Sunday. They're doing it this week with it's the Panthers, and Atlanta was swapping times with I believe the Broncos game. That was and Houston's playing in that window, and it was really, even though the NFL hasn't said why they switched it, it looks like it was designed to make sure that the Houston Texans game wasn't going up against Eagles 49ers. So they moved that game so there would hopefully be a bigger audience for the Houston Texans. So do they want to leave Bengals and Chiefs in that window? Probably not, especially because there are some other games that they can move. And the one that Mike specifically cited was Dolphins and Ravens. 8-3 Dolphins right now, 9-3 Ravens. That is one of the best games of the week, and it's right now at a noon kickoff on Sunday. So it's not in a prime window, not in a national window, nothing like that. So you can see that that's a game that they want to get more eyeballs on. So Do you want to move that game, Dolphins and Ravens, to the 3:25 Central Time slot so that they can get 30 million people watching that? Whereas they're trying to, it'd be dragging an audience for Chiefs and Bengals. That's where the flex will probably take place. So don't be surprised if that game moves up to a noon kickoff on Sunday. Might be easier for your New Year's Eve plans, but if you're planning on making travel or anything for Bengals and Chiefs, keep an eye on it because that one is the one that might change. But right now, it looks like it's fairly unlikely that Chiefs and Patriots will move. Now, we'll see what that happens. This weekend's action could certainly change that. The Patriots lose another game. Maybe the NFL really doesn't want to put them in a big window. So it could still change. But for now, we'll see what happens. But don't bet on Chiefs and Patriots moving from Monday Night Football. But Chiefs Bengals, that's another story. And again, that'll be a 12-day out decision. So you'll know before December 19th whether or not the Chiefs and Bengals will move in Week 17.